cases were fabricated against me for studying with President William Ruto. My wealth was confiscated for studying with William Ruto. But I'm a very, very, very principled man. I stood with him to the last man. I never expected this to happen. You know, my family is devastated. You know, that this can be happening to their father.
This is why Kenyans are being cautioned against trusting Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. For hours now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has dominated the headlines, airing out some of the government's dirtiest laundry for all to see.
Sisi tuliunga Rais William Ruto mkono kwa hiari yetu. Na tulimpenda. Watu wanapanga hii maneno, tafadhali msitujaribu. Msitujaribu. Tusiambie sisi ya kwamba sisi ni bure. Tuheshimiwe. Na watu wanataka waheshimiwe na kiongozi wao waheshimiwe. Na mimi niambie wale watu wanatukana Rigathi Gachagua, si Rigathi Gachagua wanatukana, ni wale wananchi walimpigia kura.
After revealing how he has been sidelined, threatened and intimidated within President Ruto's administration, Gachagua has managed to win over a significant portion of the public. In fact, Twitter polls show that if elections were held today between him and President Ruto, many Kenyans would choose Gachagua over the current president. But before his supporters get too excited, there is a growing chorus of voices warning Kenyans not to fall into the same trap again. And here is why. Some argue that Rigathi Gachagua is borrowing a page from the very playbook President Ruto used to rise to power. Remember, during his time as deputy president, William Ruto was painted as a black sheep of former President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration.
The deputy party leader, as a self-declared presidential candidate of 2022, will not be allowed to use the party headquarters as a center of operationalization of his 2022 campaign and to use the center for intimidation of potential opponents or intimidation of the staff.
As Kenyatta cozied up to Raila Odinga through their infamous handshake, Ruto found himself on the receiving end of the insults, intimidation and even alleged death threats from Uhuru's inner circle.
Wengine wanajifanya manyapara, wanajaribu kusema sijui deputy president hajafanya. Wewe umejiappoint kuwa nyapara ya deputy president na wewe umechaguliwa kufanya kazi. Uende ufanye kazi yako ile umechaguliwa kufanya. Rais ambaye ni mkubwa yangu hajalalamika kwamba kuna kazi alinipatia sikufanya. Sasa wewe unalalamika kama nani? Na hiyo maneno unasema ya kwamba sijatimiza wajibu wangu, ulisikia wapi?
Despite immense pressure to walk away from the Jubilee government, Ruto stood firm, vowing never to abandon his boss.
Sasa wale nataka niwaambie, hamuwezi kunifukuza ODM ati mkanifuata ati mnanifukuza Jubilee. Haiwezekani. Hiyo haiwezekani bwana. Ati wanajipanga huko porojo, fitina, tutavunja Jubilee. Watavunja Jubilee ya nani? Hiyo ni ndoto ya mchana nani?
By the time the 2022 elections rolled around, Ruto had been thoroughly sidelined by Uhuru Kenyatta, who went as far as to publicly renounce Ruto's candidacy. This betrayal laid the perfect foundation for Ruto's campaign, where he masterfully positioned himself as the underdog, betrayed and mistreated by a callous government. Playing up his victimhood, Ruto promised Kenyans the world, while his opponents painted him as unfit to lead the country.
Nataka nimuombe rais wetu wa Kenya, tafadhali bwana rais, you shouldn't be the source of threats in Kenya. Wacha kutisha wa Kenya. Kazi yako ni kuhakikisha kwamba Wakenya wote wako salama. Wacha kutuambia ya kwamba tutakujua wewe ni rais. Sisi ndio tulikuchagua na tulikuchagua uwe rais wa Kenya. Wacha kututisha. Sisi hapana watu wa kutishwa. Wachana na William Ruto. I supported you when you needed a man to support you. If you do not want to support me, leave me alone. Kweli ama si kweli?
Yet, when the dust settled after the elections, it was Ruto who emerged victorious, buoyed by public sympathy and a desire to teach Uhuru Kenyatta a lesson. Fast forward 2 years and the honeymoon phase is over. Many Kenyans now regret their choice, disillusioned by Ruto's policies and the harsh realities of his presidency. Ironically, Raila Odinga and Ruto are now closer than ever, while Gachagua finds himself in the same position Ruto was in during Uhuru's tenure, isolated, humiliated, and ridiculed by his own government.
Cases were fabricated against me for studying with President William Ruto. My wealth was confiscated for studying with William Ruto. But I'm a very, very, very principled man. I stood with him to the last man. I never expected this to happen. You know, my family is devastated. You know, that this can be happening to their father. A man who went out of his way to start with President William Ruto and make sure he is elected president and took the flag for it. And I say, even if there is a jinx around this position, at least President William Ruto was allowed to do his work for 5 years without interruption, without harassment, for 5 years. I've only done 1 year. And what is happening to me is worse than what happened to President William Ruto. I asked President William Ruto, please allow me to work. Allow me to work for the remaining 3 years. Let me serve the people of Kenya.
Okay. In recent weeks, Gachagua has cried out for public sympathy, decrying mistreatment in Ruto's government, the same tactic Ruto used. From his public appearances to TV interviews, Gachagua has painted himself as the victim, and many Kenyans are starting to see him as the next in line to use this strategy to ascend to the presidency. But here is the catch. The issue isn't whether Gachagua can use his hardships to win votes. It is whether history will repeat itself. Many Kenyans fear that, like Ruto, Gachagua could turn out to be just another leader who promises the moon only to implement destructive policies once in power.
The Constitution says the president can resign if he finds that things are too hot for him. But if he resigns, the result is that his deputy takes over. And I don't know whether Gachagua is better than Ruto. To me, they are all the same. They are devils. Because, you know, I don't see, both of them, and Gachagua is even worse in my view. Because he talks about shareholding. We just turned our country into a shareholding company. We want change.
As the saying goes, same monkeys, different forests. And for a nation already grappling with the consequences of one presidency, many are wary of making the same mistake twice. But the big question is, between President William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua, who is fit to run this country?
I asked President William Ruto, please allow me to work. Allow me to work for the remaining 3 years. Let me serve the people of Kenya.
Okay.
Let me serve the people of Kenya and keep your promise. Keep your promise, Mr. President, so that you can win the trust of the people of Kenya. As an honest person, as a person who keeps his promise. What is happening is not right. It doesn't augur well, and it has, to a great extent, eroded the trust of the people of Kenya in my leadership. Please, Mr. President, I am here willing to work, to serve you with the dedication, to serve the people of Kenya, to support you the way I've always done, to undertake whatever responsibilities that you assign me. But let the insults in your presence stop. Let people not hold night meetings. Let this money that is being used for these meetings assist us to pay pending bills, Mr. President. People are suffering. Resources are being mobilized to do politics, to divide the people of Mount Kenya region, to fight the deputy president. When Kenyans are suffering, when we are collecting taxes from people and we are saying we don't have enough, how come millions of shillings are being mobilized across the country to fight your deputy president, to undermine his work, to divide the people of Mount Kenya region for political purposes? I think this is the lowest moment of our administration, but I am hopeful that this can be corrected and all of us can go back to work and the people of Kenya can be given an opportunity to enjoy the fruits of their vote to the president and I.